And so the Cocteau one, a big difference that stood out to me watching Disney is it's way more about love and marriage.
In Disney?
In the Cocteau one.
Oh.
The beast is like, I will ask you this question. I will ask it.
Oh, true.
I will ask
okay.
this question every night hereafter. By the way, you can never leave. Will you marry me?
Oh my god.
Okay, well, you're still a prisoner here.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna ask you to marry me again tomorrow. And so it's much more like, as an audience member, you're like waiting to see if love is there.
Yeah, right.
In every successive scene.
Right, okay.
And then there is a kind of weird dissonance.
Yeah.
Where there isn't any.
Yeah.
At all.
At any point.
At any point.
Yeah. Even at the end, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this happening?
Yeah, you don't quite understand even at the end.
Yeah, so that's making me think of like just the huge difference between what Cocteau's doing with this fairy tale versus what Disney's doing is like Cocteau is taking the fairy tale basically as it is, and he's not trying to make Belle a convincing character or make her realistic. He's like completely satisfied with like their surreal like archetypal qualities, and he's just playing that up. And the way that she's like just this like little, devout Cinderella character, like he doesn't try to humanize her, he just lets that be what she is, and he expects you to follow along. I think there's something really like effective and enchanting about that, because like from the very beginning you're forced to suspend disbelief, but then you fall deeper and deeper under the spell of his film. So by the end of his film, like the enchantment feels so real in some ethereal way. And then what Disney's doing is kind of the opposite. Like Belle isn't this like perfect, devout character. She's just like frustrated and dissatisfied with the place she's in, and she's kind of like, we love an underdog story. Like she's just this kind of awkward girl.
Who accidentally sicks the whole town on her love interest.
Yeah.
She's the reason they attack the castle.
Yeah. And then like Cocteau's beast is so beastly. Like, I'm gonna ask you every night, and he's so forceful, and he's just like smoking, like steaming with like rage, and he's like, he's scary. And then like
showing up at her door like covered in blood.
Yeah.
Physically smoking.
Yeah.
His body.
Yeah. And then Disney makes the beast like I was just realizing watching this, like the beast is so the star of the show in this.
Yeah.
And like
he's amazing.
He's amazing, and like you completely love him and you love his character.
Well, he's way more terrifying before he gets way more lovable.
Yeah.
Because of what they can do with animation.
Yes.
They can, in his first rendition, he's like nightmarish.
That like scene of him turning and his scary eye.
Scary eye over the shoulder of his cloak.
That was all you can see, his eye. It's just shadow.
Yes. Yeah. And he talks by attacking.
Yeah.
Like every next statement of him is this like wounded animal at bay that is like threatening to kill.
Right.
And that's like how he talks.
Yeah.
Like everything he does is this like swooping rush of an animal to like be ready to pounce on her.
Yeah, and the way that he like moves around and how angry and frustrated he gets is so like in the first scene of their encounter he's very scary, but then like somehow like Cocteau's beast, when he's like being beastly and scaring Belle, it's always like, oh, this is so cringy. But Disney's beast is like so lovable. They've really managed to like create this. You like completely understand his frustration. You're like you identify with the beast, you know?
Well, by the time human artists have gotten to Disney's Beauty and the Beast level, they understand facial expressions at this point.
Sure, yeah.
Cocteau can't do much with the Beast's face because it's so covered up with makeup and hair and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the Disney Beast, they can make his lower lip pout.
Yeah.
And his eyes a little bigger.
Yeah.
And like you completely understand he's being a sullen child now.
Well, but it's also so much about the dialogue. Like Disney's trying to make it very relatable. So the Beast is saying things that like people say in relationships. You know, he's like, she's so just stubborn and.
Yeah. And she's so beautiful in me. Just look at me.
Yeah.
Well, Cocteau himself, I think, is a great subject and a great excuse of this whole watching this movie.
Yeah.
Because we watched the Cocteau movie before we did the Disney one.
Yeah.
And this whole theme was a way to discover Cocteau, who's the quintessential Renaissance man.
Yeah.
In a way that I think we both aspire to be like him. And he does that. From his Wikipedia, so I don't know shit. From that, I gathered that he does the same thing I attempt to do in building my conception of myself, where, okay, I understand what the center of how I work is.
Yeah.
It's here and here and here.
Yeah.
And from that, all different mediums of art come out of this. And he's quoted as referring to his work as the same thing.
Yeah.
He thinks of himself as a poet, and everything's just the poetry of film, the poetry of the stage, the poetry of watercolor painting.
Yeah.
And that's his like way in to all these different mediums that he was able to be so prolific with.
Yeah.
Is he focused on like the one part of his thought process that just stays the same. And somehow he was able, like, I think it's amazing to, he strikes me as an amateur.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like especially when you look at his paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like really playing and just discovering as he goes.
And yet he made Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge production.
Yeah. Well, like the thing of thinking of himself as a poet, I think it's just so felt in the film. Like I said about the, like, letting the characters just remain archetypes, but also the enchanted objects. Disney, like, gives them more action maybe, but, like, the magic key in Cocteau, the mirror is, like, bigger, the horse Magnificent is, like, it's literally glittering.
It's a glittering white horse named Magnificent.
Yeah. And
you have to like, speak magic words to the horse to get it to move.
It could be overly simple. It's just go Magnificent, go where I am going. But somehow, like, once you've got to that part of the film, like, so much suspension of disbelief has happened that it's, like, even more beautiful. And Diana is, like, this guardian statue of the vault is.
So the Disney one, it's just sticks way closer to relatable human emotion.
Yes.
And you have the same crucial, sacred, hidden place. In Cocteau, it's this like locked off, walled gazebo in his garden, guarded by the statue of Diana.
Yeah.
And that's where his greatest treasure is hidden. And he uses this like grandiose, very clear, simple speech to like describe where the treasure of his heart is and how to get there. And this is the golden key for it. And here it is. Now I'm giving it to you.
Yeah.
Very ceremonious. Disney, it's all emotion. She comes on to his rose in the vase on accident, and he like wraps his entire body around it as he's replacing the glass over it. He's like doing this to it.
Yeah.
So he's emotionally showing you that this is his like chamber with Diana guarding it. That's his greatest treasure is. So my biggest brainwave was about Gaston. And what I like about this thought that Gaston and the Beast are just the same person is they did that in Cocteau's film. When he becomes the prince at the end, he's the same actor as Avignon, who's the Gaston character in Cocteau's thing. Like, he's the same guy.
Yeah.
And they talk about it with the dialogue. He's like, "What's up?" And she's like, "You look exactly like that guy."
Yeah.
And they don't really like do anything with that. He asks, "Does that bother you?" And she's like, "No."
So, okay, that's reminding me of like, at some point in Cocteau's film, Belle says that she likes to be afraid. And then...
In what context?
Like, some context with the Beast, like, in one of their beginning encounters, she says, like he's kind of like, why are you here, or something, and, yeah.
And, like, a personality trait? She's, like, telling you, like, well, I just am into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, there's some strange moment where she says something like that, and yeah, I'm just thinking of, like, the strangeness of Belle as a character throughout these films. Like, she's different throughout. In the Emma Watson film, when he transforms into a prince, she kind of looks at him and is like, maybe you could grow a beard.
Right.
And so there's, like, different ways that this, like, attraction to not really a handsome prince, but attraction to the Beast as the Beast is, like, being expressed. And yeah, I told you when we were watching it, like, the scene where the Beast is dying, like, that's the moment that Belle could, like, kiss him, and that would be, like, the magic kiss moment of, like, resurrection, but that's, like, a little too grotesque, and so she has to say, "I love you," and then, he gets to resurrect.
Yeah, they're towing the line of bestiality.
Yeah.
This whole time.
Yeah. So the reason that these stories were so important, Beauty and the Beast stories, was kind of a comforting story for young women in arranged marriages. So, like, to love the other enough to, like, get past everything you find, like, difficult, menacing about them.
Yeah, it's a tricky balancing act thing of, is this really a heroic story to leave with little girls?
Yeah.
Or is it just is it just a slave mentality philosophy to get you to accept your lot in life?
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
And it can be either.
Yeah.
It could have been the reason she marries Gaston.
Yeah.
And accepts a less meaningful life.
Yeah.
And obviously, to you and I, JP talks about this as the hero's tale that women have. And that's in a sense where, like, it's not a slave mentality, like, accept what you're given and get over it.
Yeah.
It's realize what your power as a woman is. You can take an untamed man or an untamed boy and turn him into a man. And often you do so simply by existing.
Yeah. So, yes, I think I loved Beauty and the Beast as a kid. That question of whether it's a healthy story to leave with little girls is, like, such a big question. And I think the Cupid and Psyche myth, like, actually reading that was helpful for me. That's the Roman story from the Golden Fleece.
And who's Beauty and who's Beast here? Cupid is the beast?
Yeah. and Psyche's beauty. So, like, he kind of spirits her away to his enchanted castle in the clouds where, like, she's served, but he only visits her in the night, and so she never sees him.
Yeah.
And so when her sisters come to visit her, like, first of all, just being stolen away, captured, that's beastly. And the way that happens is, like, she can't get a husband. She's, like, the most beautiful woman in the land, and somehow that backfires where, like, everyone worships her, but no one will marry her. And so her parents, like, basically, like, sell her to an unknown entity who just, like, leaves them a pile of money and tells them, leave her on this mountain. So she's like, okay, I'm probably gonna get, like, eaten by a wolf. And then she's in some magic palace. Her sisters go and visit her, and they're really jealous because they're married to just, like, nasty old men, you know? They're like, why is she, like, a princess? So they start imagining and, like, telling her, like, well, he's probably, like, a dragon. Like, he's probably, like a disgusting monster. And so even though, like, that's the dark paradise archetype she's been in with Eros, where she's, like making love with him in the night, and it's beautiful, but, like, they put doubt in her mind. And then she becomes, like, really curious. So when he falls asleep, she holds the lantern up to him, and she sees him for the first time. And, like, he's Eros, he's so beautiful. But in that moment, she drips a little bit of wax on his chest, and that wakes him up. And as she's lunging back, she steps on one of his arrows. So she falls in love with him, but he is seen by her, and he's, like, afraid of her. And so he leaves. So she's abandoned by him in that moment, but she is actually in love with him now. And so this is, like, the illuminating, like, female gaze that forces a Peter Pan character like Eros to become a man, and that's the journey that he goes on from there. And the journey that she goes on is kind of just, well, it's a feminine development, but a big part of it is, like, she's deeply devoted, and that's, like, unquestionable. She's just, like, completely devoted, and how to make order out of that, like, abandonment and tragedy.
Yeah, there's that push and pull of, like, the glaring light of awareness pushes and pulls a partnership apart and then together again, like, pulls people apart while it sets a more powerful need to create a new union later. And I love the part so much in Disney Beauty and the Beast where he lets her go. That's his hero's moment.
Yeah, it's much more beautiful than the Cocteau version.
It's heart-wrenching and amazing, and you know he's won.
Yeah,
like,
that's so true.
You did it, dude.
Yeah.
And it really bites, because it's like, doesn't always feel good to do the right thing. You just have to, but, like, if it's the right thing, it cannot be about short-term feeling good.
Yeah.
You just know it's right.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah, that is so beautiful.
In the Cocteau one, he just, like, well, he just can't show emotions very well, because he's in that fucking costume.
I know, it's the same actor, Jean Marais, that plays Avignon, plays the prince at the end. He's actually under there with all that makeup.
That's cool.
And, like, but, like, to what end? Like, is it really cool? Because it's not working. It's the eyes.
Cocteau pays less actors this way.
Sure.
It's working. It's very effective.
He was in love with Marais. They were lovers.
Who was in love with who?
Cocteau and Marais. Cocteau and that
Very
actor.
gay lovers together? Interesting. Maybe
that's why the Belle and Beast love in that film isn't very convincing. He's
Yeah.
like too jealous to let her really
Oh,
be like,
yeah. Don't come too close to my beast,
yeah.
you conniving actress.
I want you to kiss him like this.
Okay, that's enough.
Oh, God.
Gaston and the Beast are the same person, and it didn't make any sense to have Avignon, Cocteau's Gaston character, be the same as the Beast at the end. It, like, in that Cocteau plot, it's just like mechanics of magic. Avignon was the one who trespassed into Diana's secret chamber.
Yeah.
And so it was Avignon's body that got switched with the Beast's body. And he became just a beast dead and on the floor in Diana's chamber because he like violated the magic.
Right. Yeah.
And the body got taken
Yeah.
by the Beast so he could become a beautiful prince. But in this one, I like that was playing in my head as an unresolved thought process.
Yeah.
Watching the Disney one. And the more you watch Gaston, the more like, well, every single moment of his is like, that's what he's more cartoonishly beastly than the Beast is. He's like getting his mud all over Belle's fucking books.
Yeah.
Like her books, mud from his boots on her books is terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And he like is totally
Eating leather and spitting.
Yes, and he's totally like blind to anything but his own like rolling forward appetites.
Yeah.
And the only difference between and he tries to force her into marriage. Like he uses force to get her to marry him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the fucking Beast does. The only difference is that the Beast is grown enough to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
He's like one step of development ahead of Gaston.
Right.
But they're the same thing. And then when they're fighting at the end, that's like the union of a warring psyche with itself. That's how it's dramatically presented sometimes, is this fight to the death.
Yeah.
But it's really like two opposed halves becoming one being.
Yeah, this is a good thought.
And he like, and it's in classic Disney form, the Beast like will not kill this guy.
Yeah.
And lets the guy kill himself, basically. And that's very true, in my opinion, to the healing process itself as a psyche. I've never achieved any sort of progress by deletion or like uprooting some part of my psyche or like surgery, like cutting something out to achieve healing. Which in Disney's terms would be if the Beast had Gaston by the throat and fucking tore his neck apart and threw him across the thing. That's not how healing goes. You just like wish it peace and move on with your own focus, and it takes care of itself. The like lesser part of you just kind of like it naturally finds its own way to neutralize itself. I was saying to you, like, okay, when they're fighting, the Beast is warring with himself. Like what this Beauty and the Beast thing is in practical terms is a man trying to grow up or not. Right. And so Gaston doesn't want to grow up. He just wants to get what he wants in his own terms and doesn't want to accept the reality of any other players, including the object of his desire. And the Beast is just trying to like move on, but the part of you that's wounded and can't move on and is like sick is just gonna like ride on you and think like it's only in its terms or nothing.
What do you think of, does that relate to image that the beast changes into at all, or not really?
Only in the Cocteau one, where it's like literally the same actor as the Gaston guy.
I remember as a kid being like disappointed by the Disney prince that the beast turns into. Like, I didn't like the way his voice changed.
Yeah.
And he looked too pretty. Like, I think that was like basically Emma Watson's reaction to her beast prince is like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told you watching it, I liked the moment where Belle doesn't even believe that it's her beast for a moment until she like looks deep into his eyes.
Yeah.
And goes, oh yeah, it's you.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't trust this beauty going on all of a sudden. Like,
that is so cute.
she had to see past the beastliness, but then she had to do the same thing at the end and see past the beauty to
soul, man.
that soul, baby. Like, psychologically, too, that's like, the beast could have gone that route at any point of being rejected by Belle.
Yeah.
He could have, like, every time where he fucks up with Belle is this opportunity to choose resentment.
Yeah.
And fire and brimstone.
Totally.
And like,
and
punishing.
he almost dies when we see him by the fire.
Yeah, seeing him lose his temper and trying to control his temper is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. But like you asked a question at the beginning, because she's just singing like about how much she hates this poor provincial town. Like, is this movie also kind of a key to how to integrate with your community or town that you live in? And
because she just hasn't found someone she vibes with yet.
Yeah, like
the
there's
town.
nobody that I can talk to.
Yeah.
And like, so her outsiderness makes her the perfect counterpart to the beast, and she can break his spell. But then there are two outsiders, like, as feudal, like, lord and lady of this place. And it's so strange in that last scene where they're dancing, like, maybe it's their wedding or...
Yeah, and it's filled with other lords and ladies.
Yeah, and it's just like...
came from where?
How do you explain this?
Are they the villagers that just got the shit beaten out of them by the furniture of this mansion?
By the furniture. Like just how... A Beauty and the Beast story is so strange. Like, how do you expect the town to integrate that? You have to be a really good storyteller.
Yeah.
And Belle could do it, I bet.
Yeah, that's what separates the boys from the men as far as storytellers go.
Sure.
Is the ability to go past the ending into integration.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings style.
Yeah. So like Cupid and Psyche does that really well. Like the way that Psyche finds her place on Mount Olympus, she goes like, you know, through all these levels of existence, and she like has to deal with Aphrodite, Eros's mother, who hates her so much, and she has to like use order to sort out like the chaos that Aphrodite puts in front of her, and she has to like use parts of nature that are ordered, or she has to use like feminine principles of waiting in order to go through certain trials.
So the connection between that hero's journey that Psyche goes on and the biggest heroic act of the Beast in Disney's thing, he lets her go. And in the Jane Roberts Seth books, there's a line that love is freedom.
Not in front of her.
Should I keep... Don't confess you read a 70s channeled book. New Age channeled fucking bullshit. The book says that love is freedom.
Okay.
And or love is based in freedom.
Yeah.
In exactly that Beast in the Disney movie way.
Yeah.
Like if you if you don't want them to be themselves and like be free, then love gets strangled.
Yeah.
But what that requires is something like Psyche when Cupid runs away. Is, well, you can't choose what Cupid does. All you can choose is to grow as a person.
Right.
When you've like made that decision that love is based on freedom.
Yeah.
Now you have responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
And that's the way that love is beautiful and alchemical.
Yeah.
It both gives you like the seemingly insurmountable drive of like a direction,
yeah.
but then you have no recourse to beastly force to force someone else's decision.
Yeah.
Like if anything, you want to encourage them to fly and experience themselves.
Yeah.
And that forces you right up against your own development. And well, what the fuck are you gonna do with your day now?
Yeah. I have like a tiny thought here, half a thought, which is like, if you add Hook into the Peter Pan mythology, like Wendy looking upon Neverland kind of holds up the lantern to the dark paradise of Neverland, like makes Peter self-aware. She like goes on this tour through like all these places, all these like half humans, like chimeras of mermaids, the Lost Boys are chimeras, like all these like forms of unconscious existence that like really beautiful and interesting, but are super, super beastly. And like eventually she finds it wanting, and it's like Wendy shares a line with Belle in Cocteau's film, like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And like if that maybe that's the more than the image of whatever girl he marries, like that admonition is kind of what makes Peter choose the human world again and grow up.
Yeah. Yeah, so now I'm going Gaston Beast, like she goes within Gaston's heart to hold a light up and take a tour of like everything that makes his psyche. And that's her going to the castle and her seeing his like true form.
Oh wow.
And so like on the outside he's completely unaware of what's happening. He thinks he's this upstanding like muscular man. On the inside she's like doing Leo DiCaprio Inception.
This is amazing.
She's doing an Inception journey and like holding a light up to what he really is. Like, you're a fucking animal, dude. And the part of him that's feeling that lantern light of her gaze, the beast in the movie, is the one to show shame. And like want to choose change, and it's like actually aware of how he looks. And is this like wounded beast running around. Like,
totally.
Always defensive, always like shouting in pain, basically. And that's like the more true rendition of an overswollen ego that you see with Gaston is, well, there's this deeply insecure, doomed, like self-flagellating, wounded thing at the center of that.
Like, what is Beauty even doing with them? Like, I still can't quite tell. She's just like existing.
She's just
and responding.
Well, she is the lantern itself. She's radiating
her
awareness.
Eyes provide the light.
At least in the Disney movie, she like meets him halfway a little bit at the dinner table, where she like, okay, I won't use silverware either.
No, she like gets in a snowball fight with him, and what else?
Well, she fights with him.
She like yells at him.
She yells at him. Well, cool. We've unironically analyzed Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
I loved it. Multiple times we paused, we rewound,
to enjoy it
better.
Yeah.
I love the sparkling snow. You love the architecture.
The massive. To have a castle that massive that you can't even hope to see every part of it in a day, much less a week.
That's the dream.
That's so fucking sick.
Yeah.
And it's only because he's under a curse that all the statues are gargoyles and scary.
And so their transformation is so beautiful. Yeah.
But I still think that's a sick ass fucking thing for a castle to have.
Oh yeah.
To have beautiful angels and feminine goddesses and heroic men statues, but also terrifying demon statues.
That castle is big enough for both.
It is.
Yeah, I feel like the West Wing should remain this
fucked up, haunted,
dark corner that's for just being really intense, howling.
It's important.
Yeah.
You don't want your house to be too clean because then it's sterile.
Yeah.
You keep something West Wingy, a little dark, or even beautifully dark, you curate it that way. Yeah. And that's the same way, making poetry about descending to the underworld earlier today for you, if your house has if your house has a spot devoted to that, then your psyche has a way to access, the house as an extension of your psyche. Yeah. Then your psyche has a way to access unconscious information that it wouldn't be able to get to by looking for good, pleasant things. Yeah. So if you're just in a bad mood, you can go to your bad mood corner.
That's what I do. That's actually such a good idea. Instead of timeout corner, you should be ashamed.
Go to
this is the bad mood corner.
Yeah.
You must go there.
Open the
tell
drawers.
us what you find.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. No, I don't want to go. Okay, I'll go with you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's cute. Okay, I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done.